Hey, welcome back. Last time we were here, we were making our molds for our Marlin head lures. We made them out of a really good silicone that we found the best that matches with resin. And today what we're going to do is actually cast the beautifully clear Marlin headed lures. Right, so we're going to cast the heads. What I've already done, and I'll do it in another video, is show you how I make my inserts, which are just pretty simple. I can take you through the materials. I use a thin little 2mm metal tube that's not hollow, and then a 4mm piece of silicone tubing. Altogether those two cost, I think together, about $2 from Amazon. I then thread the metal tube through, so then the silicone tube stays tight. It'll become apparent on why we do this. So we can see here, don't know if you can see this, but it's got a 2mm gap in the tubing, and then the metal rod just sticks right through. So what we first need to do before we start casting this is know how it's going to look. So what I've done is I've grabbed a combination of my skirts and I've worked out really what I want the lure to look like at the end. So easy way to do that is just get two skirts together. I've got about 20-30 different variations, and you can start playing with them. So you can literally just stick them in each other and go, well, will this look good in the water? Does it look like a fish? Does it look natural? Or does it look like a design which I can work with? So what we've decided on this one is we're not running a lot of green at the moment. We've got a lot of blues and a lot of purples. So I've decided on a green with a blue underneath. And then I also wanted to really use this black a lot more. We've had some really good hookup rates on the black. So what I've done is just had a look at what black looks like with blue. Now, the reason why this is important is because it will define what type of dyes we're using. So I think that looks pretty good, but I guess we'll see once it runs in the water. So then, we've got our resin. We use epoxy cast, which is a 2-part resin from Barnes. It comes out pretty clear. We do need to do a little bit of touching at the end. It's about a 24-hour cure time, but it has done quite well for us. It's a 1-to-2 mix, which means a 2-to-1 mix, which means we use 2 parts of part A and 1 part of part B when we're mixing it together. We also need our molds, obviously, and we've got our little wood blocks at the top of the mold, which we took you through last time. We need what we're going to use to create this sort of effect on the inside. Now this is, believe it or not, body glitter. And again, just buy it from Amazon. I get the Microflex stuff because I find if you use glitter, or if you use big pieces of glitter, they just all sink to the bottom, and what you actually get is a head that looks like this, where all the stuff's at the bottom. The body still has a lot, but you just get a lot in that head bit, which isn't ideal. And it clouds it up a little bit more. So we've got our glitter, we've got our resin, we've got our molds, we've got our insert, got our gloves on because resin's horrible to work with, we've got our skirts ready, and then we've got our dyes. So we're going to do 2 different lures today. We're going to do one in a translucent blue, and we're going to do one in a fluoro green. So the process is, again, pretty simple. I already know how much my lures weigh. They weigh about 40 grams each, so I'm going to do about 50 grams of resin. Now the reason why I do more resin than less resin is, one, because it gets stuck to the cup, but secondly, I use the offset, the additional resin to then make my inserts. So I'm basically casting the two things at the same time for the next time. Okay, so first up, what we need to do is work out where our inserts are going. So I'll take a blank design, I'll just measure against that and know how deep I need to put this inset in. Once you get used to this, then it's actually really easy to do. So I know that it needs to go that way for that one, and it needs to go pretty deep. So what I'll do here is I've got my hole in the bottom right through, you can just see it right there, and I'm going to thread this in now. And once I get my mold in, the silicone coming out the bottom, I just use another piece of metal and I just push the metal back through. So it'll sit nice and flat. Then you just check inside and you go, okay, are we happy with how deep or how shallow that is in there? And we are. Second one. This one's a little bit trickier. This one is a lure with a slanted head, which means that we need to identify where the slant is in the mold. To do that, when I built the mold, I just put this little indicator here that says that's where my slant should be. So we've now put our cup on our scales, we've zeroed them. Now we're going to start pouring part A. Now what I need is 50 grams total, so what I'll do is 35. Yep, 35 part 1. Doesn't matter if you go a little bit over, you just adjust to it. So I've got 37 of 1. So that means I need, just give part 2 a little bit of a shake. Means I need about 18.5. There we go. Oh, pretty much bang on as well. Okay. So we've got part A and part B now in the cup. Now, get your little popsicle sticks. And give it a bit of a stir. When you're stirring, make sure you go right around the bottom. You know, scrape the bottom, scrape the sides. Now, immediately once you pour these, you'll see that beautiful clear liquid starts becoming unclear. You'll also start seeing some air bubbles form in there. So when you're mixing, try and minimize the air bubbles just by going around the sides, you know, through the middle. Don't try and create big opportunities for the air to get in there. It will go a little bit like that. Now, we'll do our green one first. So with our green, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a little bit of, just make sure it's up. I'm going to put a little bit of dye down here. The reason why we don't pour it in is because one little drop of this stuff is going to completely change color. So you can see I've got a tiny little drop on there. It's probably even too much. I'm just going to dip it in. Okay, so you can see in here there's a little bit of green at the bottom. Okay, and once we mix that up, we can see what color it's going to turn. So it's now turned probably need a little bit more than that in there. Let's just get a little bit more. You see it's turning a nice green color. Maybe just a little bit more of this. A little bit bit deeper. Oh, there we go. That's what we want. Beautiful, like neon green that it is now. Okay, after that, we're now going to take a little mica flake. Now this tub's almost empty and it's got about as much as I need in it. So I'm just going to pour that into there. I'm not sure if it really picks up on here, the colour change of these little flakes. Just gives it this beautiful little UV kind of look to it. So we'll stir that up. Okay, once you're happy, let's just stir for a good few minutes. Let's get a good look of what's in there. A beautiful dark green colour. Once you're happy with what you've got, you then need to start pouring into your mould. So I'm quite happy. We're going to do the green one on, let's do it on the slant. Yep. So now lay your mould flat. When you pour, I've created this channel in here intentionally. We'll do it first actually, because this one does have cuts down it. Elastic bands, and just seal up that side. So now we know when we pour, it's not going to leak. So what we do, we try and pour slow. It's very difficult to film this. Just into the channel. Now, because we've got an insert in there, air can get trapped in there a bit. So what we're going to do, once it comes to a decent level, once you can see the resin coming up, I'm just going to stop for a sec. Just going to move the insert around gently on the inside. Just want to make sure that no air gets trapped beneath the insert. We'll pour the rest. Now, I've poured right to the top of the circle here. I'm just going to give it a couple of squeezes and you'll see that it splurges over. It's because what I'm trying to do is make sure that I get all of the air bubbles out. You can see some air bubbles coming up. Some big ones from the inside. We're just going to move our insert again around a little bit. Let's tip it one way, tip it the next way. And that level's already gone down because we've got a couple of big air bubbles in there. So I'm actually just going to fill it up a little bit more. And it doesn't matter if you fill into this channel, because with this channel anyway, you've got your piece of wood going in there. Make sure you get it the right way around. And what that piece of wood will do is it'll leak everywhere for a start. Probably overfilled that out a little bit. What this piece of wood does is actually make sure that your insert is dead flat, dead straight with the rest of the lure. Okay, so that's number one. Now we do have a little bit of leftover resin. So what we can actually do is use an old insert tube. So there we've just poured into the insert. Let's get a block in there to make sure it goes straight. Okay, next up, we need to make more resin. So we need to do again, we need to go 35 part 8. Let's zero out those scales first. So again, we're going to pour 35 part 8. 27, 34.5, a little bit more, 36. Okay. So 36 of A, which means 18 of B. Should bring this to 54. 52. 54. Again, we get our stick. Use a different stick. The reason why I'm using a different stick is because I'm putting a different colour in this one. So, just gonna, same process. Swirl it around. This time we're going to go blue. Now I know that the blue is incredibly sensitive. And I only need the tiniest bit of blue. Like, not even that much. That's too much. Still too much. So, I've not even taken it all off the stick. You can see in here, watch how blue this goes. Blue is incredibly strong. Mix it all in. Now we've got to put in our new fleck. And we don't want to go too heavy again. We just want not too much. A little bit more than that. Oh, that was far too heavy. This is going to come out looking like a Christmas tree. It's all right. See here, beautiful colours on it. You stir it all in. And it looks beautiful in the light. What this will do, I don't know if you can see it when I move it round, gives a beautiful kind of scale almost looking flash in the water. So, now this one. Now we're ready to pour into here. So we've actually got a next step to this process, and that's putting them in to the pressure pot, which is a homemade, it's basically a paint pot which has been modified slightly just to hold the pressure. So what we're going to do, let me just come and put you down here without covering you in resin. So with these, you just put them into your pressure pot. Have a plate at the bottom to keep it flat so it doesn't get covered in resin in case of any leaks. We then secure it back on. It's got these wings, these wing nuts. Now, I'm going to push this to about 3 bar. So now we're all set up, we're all plugged in. I'm going to just turn on my air compressor. I'm going to seal it up at 3 bar. Now, we're pretty much done here until tomorrow. We need to now leave that for a good 24 hours. We'll actually be leaving it for about 36 because we're out fishing tomorrow. So yeah, we'll drop back tomorrow and see how we've gone. Right, just got back from fishing. It's been a long day. So I'm not going to do much, but I'm just going to have a look at them before we sand them. Let's see what they look like. That's one, and that's two. Okay, so first off, no leaking from the bottom, always a good sign. Yeah, no leaking from the bottom. Then we have our two final products. They're now ready for sanding, ready for prep. So we'll see what we can do with them. All right, so we're next day. I took these two out last night. I was a little bit tired during after 11-hour offshore trip. This one came out of this mold and this one out of this mold. Now, just to show you the importance of putting this line on is just to make sure the insert is the right way around, which it is. So they've come out. This one's a little bit cloudy at the moment. We're now going to polish them up, and this one is a little bit more clarity in it, but it does have a few imperfections that we just need to sand out. So the reason why we have the metal spike in this tube is quite simply easy homemade sanding process. What we're going to do is put the metal tubing in there and just tighten up our hand drill. Now, with our sanding process, we go through quite a few different grains of sandpaper. So we start off with a 400 grit. We then move to a 600, then to an 800, a 1200, and then a 2000. It just gets all those imperfections out that we need to. So all we do, I'll probably time lapse this for you, is once this is in here, it's pretty stable. We just simply start turning it at a slow speed to our sandpaper, and we get all of these imperfections just sanded down. Now, I'm just going to add some of the pink stuff. It's a bit gritty. So what we'll do is, let's take this and rub this in here. It's just a final kind of clean before the polish. So we're back with our 2000 with the grit on. This is our product. It's now nice and sanded. Not quite ready yet. So we get some polish, and we put a little bit on and just wipe that in. As you can see, it's coming up a little bit clearer now. So it's a lot cleaner, very clear, but we want to take it just to the next level. So we get a little bit of methylated spirit. Pour it onto here and just keep it a bit clean. Okay. Finally, let's make sure the product's clean. Now what we're going to do is we're just going to put some spray varnish onto it. Now, that is our final result. need something to put that in. Put it into here. And that's that one. Right, so this is the sort of result which you get. Very clear pattern. And then after you skirt it, again, a very clear pattern. So, with skirting, we have some options to look at, and then we can go, okay, well, this one looked good, or do we want to go for a more green look? We don't know at the moment. Now what you can do at this point is just remove your tube. Tube's now removed. We are going to do a bit of sanding on it, just around the top, so we're just going to sand up the top hole and the bottom, flatten off the bottom. But there. Now we've made this from a beautiful mold that we've had. Now, I've got to do the other one. I won't take you through it, but I'll take a photo. Thank you for your time. If you enjoy these type of craft videos, and fishing videos, like and follow.